All right, what's happening, fam? L.A.R. moving, still moving. Book entitled Lessons from a Non-Custodial Father. Amazon, Kindle, Create Space. Legal weed, illegal heroin. Did a video a long time ago before these things started popping off when I said, a suburb's gonna have a heroin problem because I saw it coming, Now it's just my thoughts about where it's going. I think this is why they have the push for marijuana. You see, early in the 80s, weed was the gateway drug. It's supposed to lead you to other drugs. And at the same time, they had the war on drugs when George Bush Sr. did the crack commercial promoting for drug dealers in America as a presidential address, whatever. But that also exploded the war because think about it. If you are seen with the gateway drug, you must get other drugs. Fast forward a little bit into Clinton and the 3 strikes law and the mandatory minimums, which always seemed kind of hypocritical because after Clinton left, you saw numerous non-black people with a laundry list of felonies, but they didn't fit the 3 strikes rule for some odd reason. They didn't get life. And also, the mandatory minimum, a couple ounces of crack is equal to a kilo of cocaine, which didn't make sense. It was to let more non-black people off the hook. So, because to get the big bust, it protected big drug dealers when they say they were going up the food chain. No, they weren't. They were going to the low-level dealers. Now, I said all that to say this. Now, the push to legalize marijuana again, because, weed is not such a bad thing. And because there are a lot of Caucasians openly admitting that they smoke weed all the time, so let's freaking make it legal. Plus, they need a new economy. But the backdrop of that is, if you can get if you can legalize marijuana, then all these non-black potheads have no employment issues. But heroin, it's an illegal drug that for years this has been building. And what I mean by that is this. See, people forget the raves that would never get raided. That everybody knew they were having raves and ecstasy, parties, right? That was just part of the young culture. Well, just like they had crack babies, they had rave babies, And then the opiates of, I got them perks, I got them Xannies, I got whatever, the legalized drugs and opiates. And people were just letting that slide. They had those farmer parties when they had the kids with the bowls or the parents' pills, and people just chalking back pills at parties, but those were suburban parties. So they were suburban kids. It's not a big deal, right? And then you fast forward and you get to meth. And then you go to Afghanistan. And this is, to me, why it's such a hate to quote-unquote the Muslims and we're at war, because you need to have a war with Afghanistan to get control of the poppy field so you can control heroin. That's just my opinion. And everybody was getting funneled into heroin because they kept taking these opiates and this quote-unquote morphine and all this legal shit. But at the same backdrop, you got heroin and opiates ain't a drug that black people fuck with anymore, or meth. Black people ain't fuck with meth at all, anyways. So now you need reform. You need people to go. You don't need to arrest these people and lock them up and invoke the 13th Amendment of slavery on these Caucasians. We need to send them to rehab, which is not going to do anything but send them basically to the grave, because there's no stopping them from getting it fixed. Rehab is a temporary thing, you know. You go in, you get clean, you go back out. It happens. So, since they're not going to fix that problem, you're going to see more overdoses. And then, and with not addressing that problem properly, people forget you ignore the methamphetamine problem. Why did I bring all this up with legalizing weed? Is because, guess what? You're going to have less people of Caucasian or non-black descent, mostly Caucasian with these opiates and this meth. They're going to be dying, they're going to be ODing, they're going to be deteriorating at a fast rate, just dying off. You're going to have your economy and your businesses are going to crash because of this. Because instead of fixing these problems, you want to live with this. It's just part of racism. Like, you know, you're so accustomed to letting your own off the hook, you don't realize you're about to let these fools go wild. And just get them back on weed. They don't want weed. No cokehead goes back to weed. No heroin person goes back to weed. No meth addict goes back to weed. Like, tweakers don't, you know. So, and not addressing this is going to make it worse, because we see that, you know, y'all get away with murder. So just because you legalize it and you subsidize people trying to get clean, you're going to go right back to what they're doing, and it's just going to get worse, in my opinion. I'm out.